Greetings, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode, number 41 of Becoming Chiron, with my first ever guest, my dearest friend, Glenda. Welcome, Glenda.
Hi.
Hi.
Very excited for
So,
this.
me too. Me too. This is a milestone for me and for the podcast, and I'm so honored because I credit you with planting the seeds that ultimately became the Cosmic Connection Weekly Horoscopes, as well as everyone. This first guest episode was Glenda's idea. So here we are. I think that was what, like 2 months ago, and we were making it happen.
Yeah, and I take no credit for that. I just gave a nudge. It was in you the whole time.
Just like your name.
Yes, it is I, Glenda the Good Witch, or Bad Witch, depending on the day. No. So thank you so much for allowing me to share this space with you. I think that we have definitely been through some things, and you have definitely guided me, and opened my eyes to a lot of just astrology and all the things. So I am honored to be your first guest.
Oh, I'm
So
so
thank you for
excited.
having me.
You're welcome. So we've been working together. I went back and checked, and since like late 2021 was when we first started working together. So yeah, it's been a very long time. And I just want to mention for everyone listening that we're born roughly a couple months apart. So we have similar chart setups with Chiron that we'll talk about, as well as we're both in the thick of our Uranus oppositions. So having somebody to go through that whole thing with on this more intimate level has been a gift. I know you're feeling it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that that is one aspect that like really being connected with somebody, we all have those, oh, this person feels, familiar. Then when the chart starts doing the things and we can discuss that, it's having that one person that's like, look, this is what's going on today. And then it's validated, and then you don't feel as crazy or, a lucky day. I don't want to make it all sound like doom and gloom, but I mean it in that way. It is the Chiron content, which I love and have learned so much from you. Um, Pause. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so the whole point, like my intention truly behind starting to have guests on is from not only like to tie together the content from seasons two and seasons three. So we'll be talking about Glenda's Chiron placement by house and by sign. We'll be sharing Glenda's chart, which I'm so glad that she was cool with me doing. And I just want to, besides myself, this whole project is all about the lived experience of astrology and Chiron in my first. So give Chiron more of a voice for other people that are experiencing, any variety of whoever comes next or in the future, like different placements, different houses, and to just explore the lived experience of all of that with another thing that I never covered yet, which I think will pull into these interview episodes is aspects. So that's one that we'll touch on tonight. And we are intentionally recording this under the energy of the Capricorn new moon on December 30th of 2024. And it is now, we hit record around 5:15 p.m. Eastern time. So that was intentional. And we're hoping to get this released by the full moon, which is also intentional. So how are you feeling under this energy, Glenda?
I'm feeling very woo-woo and I love it. So, just being Cancer rising, the moon. Yeah, I think that that was perfect timing, and that is where the organization that you bring into my chaotic life, the new moon and the intentions and the timing. Like, I have these urges and feelings, but whenever you put it into perspective for me where it makes sense, it allows me to set my own intentions where I feel a little bit lost, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go so powerful by setting the intentions based on where the new moon is happening in your chart. So that's one thing that I know you've put into practice since we've been working together. So that's super cool. And I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Like it's all with your help for sure. It is.
Yeah.
It is. Truth.
So you ready to dive in?
Let's do it. Let's
All
see the
right,
chart.
let's share that chart. Okay, so for everyone watching the video version of this, which will be available on Spotify and on YouTube, you can follow along with us. And then for anyone catching this audio only, I'll be as descriptive as possible for everyone else's benefit, because if you can't see the screen. So, as Glenda said, she is a Cancer rising. And as you can see, we're 1980 babies. So we share a
80s
lot,
babies.
generationally, which is really cool. And Glenda's Chiron is in the 11th house of her chart in the sign of Taurus. So let's start there. Let's unpack that. Let's draw those, threads to the content that I've already put out in seasons 2 and 3. And we'll still use the, descriptions and information from Barbara's book because that's what I based all those episodes on. And Barbara essentially says that with people who have Chiron natally in the 11th house, that she says giving one's creative gift and working through a crisis over creativity and idealism is ultimately what the Chiron placement is teaching. So, can you describe that? Can you put words to that for your own experience?
Yeah, so Chiron, the wounded healer. So this is something that I really enjoyed you doing season 2 and 3 on. And the way that you broke it down. So if they are familiar with it, go find the podcast episode where Ursula says, which house, because that's one thing that you can go back to and listen to how it will affect you. So yes, Chiron in the 11th house. Friendships. If you're a wounded healer, and so here I am going to speak some astrology. Ursula will chime in when I get the wordings wrong because I'm not the expert, but we're all learning daily, right? Um, Friendships, 11th house, big deal. Huge deal. So if I were to think back, knowing that the wounded healer sits in the 11th house, I can pinpoint when certain relationships have affected me. So yeah, we learn from those things. Um, but then they happen again. And that's the part where once you recognize the patterns, okay, so keeping up with where the stars and the planets are, you kind of can a little bit, what's the word that I want to use? If you feel something brewing, and I love when you use that in your readings with me, like something's brewing. I can be mindful because if I want to heal that part in my chart and move forward. Apparently, I have gifts, is what it says for in the 11th house, and finding out what those gifts are. So far, it's been like open mouth, insert foot. I am really good at that, which probably has led to the issues. I say issues, learning experiences. There's a better word.
There you go.
So being mindful of that to where it's careful how you react. I think that's how I want to say because if I'm in how do I want to word that? I have an Aries moon. That's all I need to say, right?
I think so.
So
And we'll touch on that too.
yeah. So if I know that there's something coming up in my chart that's going to affect that house placement, I can be more mindful because it's going to be a learning experience that I'm either going to come out feeling mature and better about, or it's going to happen again. Um, and it always happens again. I have found that with your content and with it being in Taurus, Taurus is the bull and it's slow and steady. when you say Taurus, I think of a large bull that has an open field with miles of luscious grass, and it will take its time eating every single blade. All right, that means slow, steady. I have been brought multiple instances where Chiron's like, hey, here you go. Hey, here you go. Here's some more. But it also, I'm an 80s baby. I just turned 44. I am definitely, I'll use say maturing, pausing, thinking before I speak.
Mm.
That has helped tremendously because I take it as be a Taurus. Take your time. Do not instantly react. So, and I used friendships, but like there's more to that.
Yeah,
The 11th house.
yes. It's your larger groups. So it's not like your most intimate best friends or, your marriage or anything like that. It's more like your tribe, like your overall general tribe.
Yes, thank you for that because I knew that there was something else that I wanted to add to that.
Hmm.
So, here we go. Glenda has always had a feeling of not fitting in,
Hmm.
um, not in the crowd, right? Like she's a little different. And as a young adult, being the one that's a little different, what happens to your circle? It runs. Those true friends, I say that knew me at that time, always knew that I was a little different. And then there was some that came in and stepped out, and it's like, they really didn't get me. And that's all okay, completely okay. As you can hear that healing in there, because if you've ever not been a part of the cool club, right? Um, being ostracized, being shunned, those are words that I'm not trying to use as triggers, but like I think that we all have had a moment where, God, I thought I was included in that, right?
Yeah.
Um, Stepping back, you can either take that and it really affect you if you have the same Chiron in Taurus because you thought you were in the in crowd, or you thought that everyone was on the same mindset as you, right? Clearly, if we're talking astrology, then that's something that I'm into. Or some people could be really into, other things. It's finding the people that, like you said, tribe. And I did have some things that popped up, earlier this year with some tribe things where I thought that, hey, I thought I was in that club, and I'm using club just because, cool club, 80s babies. Um, and come to find out I wasn't. Now, yes, thinking about it, taking a step back, it's December. This was earlier this year. I think you and I discussed around the April mark was one of the times that Chiron came in. Hey, Glenda, by the way, and I got kicked out of the club. And I'm really just summarizing, no need to go into too much detail,
Hmm.
but it rocked my world because looking back, it's like, damn, what did I do wrong?
Mm.
What did I do wrong? And it wasn't anything that I did wrong. Timing, if it's meant to be, it'll happen easily, right? That's what I tell
Yes.
myself.
Yes.
So if there was some push and pull, or if there was something that kind of was like, oh, okay, that's your little, that's the brew. That's where it's brewing, maybe starting to boil. And if I'm just being naive about it and not really tuning into like, okay, maybe I could have, I don't know, reacted different. I chose to just let it go
Hmm.
based on healing a wound, right? Didn't want to
Yeah.
repeat. I let it go because clearly it wasn't something that was going to serve me. Had I not worked through and listened to your content on how this all works, right? Like, how would I have reacted, old Glenda, right?
Hmm.
Whoa, whoa, there's a reason Facebook didn't exist in the 80s. Because you could really burn a huge bridge or cause then you got all kinds of wounds. I let it go. It didn't serve me anymore. I let that go.
Hmm.
And look at me now, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't really explain in full detail, but clearly there was a tribe issue and the tribe broke up.
Yes.
Um, what did I find out of that tribe? Wonderful friends. So what I have told myself and explained to myself is that tribe, if I had not been a part of that, and I'm using tribe just simply because you said that, but it really was a friends group, a friends group. We were all like-minded. We were into all the same things. And then it kind of took a fork. And that happens, right? In the meantime, I developed really close relationships with some people that I never would have met had it not been for that friend group, right?
Hmm.
That is the reason for the friend group. Chose not to say tribe anymore because, um, tribe can sound a little different, but the friend group. But
Hmm.
in the end, I still had the people that got me from the get-go, understood me. A lot easier relationships. And
Yeah.
they're spread out all over. I would not have met them if it hadn't have been for that group. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah. And that is the
Did-
medicine.
Okay, I was like, did I answer that or did I
Yeah,
just
you
go in a
did.
full
Well,
circle?
here, well, you actually helped actually bring the segue into the next layer of this because one of the things that Barbara also says about Chiron with this in this place of the chart is your eccentricity and being open about your eccentricities and being accepted for your eccentricities. And she also talks about the creative process because houses 11 and 5 are opposite each other. So they're intrinsically connected because they're polar opposites. So, like,
Mhm.
the next part of it is your creations. So, with the Taurus element that's involved in this, she says a search for values on the material plane. The challenge is regarding valuing something that already exists and preserving it versus creating something or inventing something. So the dynamic with the Taurus placement in this space is your creativity and channeling and being accepted for that and being okay with bringing something new to the table in a more public forum. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so there's the book. We're opening that. Here we go.
Here we go.
Um, with that, there is a reason that I was always different. And it's because I guess I'm gonna say gifted. It, if you, we'll just say it exactly how it is. I see dead people. Um, being a medium is something that I had no idea that's what that was until I chose to develop more.
Mhm.
Being a psychic, I can't explain why I knew the answer to things. Got in trouble one time for knowing the answer instantly to some sort of weird problem in school, and the teacher got angry with me because I couldn't explain how I knew the answer.
Mm.
Um, right? Those are moments that if I was having a moment of channeling from higher self, spirit guides, what have you, think of that instance. You're in school. You just received information and you have an adult not happy with you. What can happen with that?
Hmm.
Well, no longer going to answer questions out loud. Um, it can create a fear. So I think 2021, when you said that was when the nudge was there to do some more research. try new things, see what resonates. And if we're still here in 2024, we know one thing that resonated was how Ursula explains astrology. Perfectly, perfectly.
Mm,
Um, and I've met some great friends through you as well. So that's another thing of like through our connection, it branches off into this a whole new set of people. Um, again, there I am going in a circle. But yeah, there are things that I didn't know I could do until I took the time to focus on myself and dive more into what gifts I had. Everyone has gifts. I'm using that as a broad term. Put whatever you want into that little box, and that's that gift. So for me, it's seeing, it's hearing, it's all kinds of things. I'm sure there's more that we just don't, Glenda doesn't know yet. It'll come about. Um, so take a step back. Depending on your community. So let's now take that community down a little bit closer to like neighborhood,
hmm
um, where you're from. Sometimes having a gift that makes you different is hard to discuss, right?
Yes.
So there's the whole closet thing. Um, and I love the little nudge you just gave there because that's something that it's there, it exists. And under this new moon energy, it's open, right?
hmm
So thank you for that. Glenda sometimes needs a nudge, and Ursula knows that about me, and I love that about her, that she gets me so much that it's almost it's telepathic. I have a friend, Lisa, she's exactly the same. It's so weird. We can both be cleaning our houses at the exact same time. I'm like, "Are you cleaning your house?" "Yes, are you?" And she's like a long way away from me. Anyway, but I love that. So yeah, trying to figure out where Glenda fits in the world. And what I've
hmm
discovered thus far is that it doesn't have to be in the community because there are like-minded people outside of that. And that is kind of what the last 3 years, yeah, and more, because there's those moments that you didn't realize.
hmm
Um, hey, I really like this stuff, and I had no idea that, I was being nudged by spirit to like, hey, look at this, read this, do that. Um, but yeah, developing my gifts as what I say about that. My goal, what I want for the world is to help everyone in the process of grief,
mm
to help everyone. And I'm saying everyone because there are no specific individuals. Grief is hard. And just having a moment of a connection can sometimes I'm getting chills when I'm saying this. Um, sometimes all they need is validation.
hmm
So, you know, if anyone has ever experienced that, and life lessons, thank you. Life lessons can help you help others. So, having said that, there's many a things Glenda has experienced in her very young age, 44, I mean
mm
24. Um, that had I not experienced those things, how could I put myself, let's say, in their shoes? How could I
mm
empathize?
hmm
Okay. So one thing that Glenda does practice, and I'm using, why am I saying Glenda? Like Glenda, me, I. Um, one thing that I have learned to do is not give unsolicited advice, waiting for the
mm
question. That was a hard challenge. Looking back, the advice that came from Spirit that I blurted out at a young age, wasn't cool. Was not cool. Wow, I have learned how to bite my tongue and I wait until I'm asked. That has helped me the most. So with the Taurus energy there, slow
Hmm.
and steady, you got this urge, being creative, wanting to do the things, but then taking a step back, making sure everything feels good, you're grounded, okay? Making sure that everything is just not all over the place. And then when you're asked, the timing will be right.
Yeah.
So going back to what you said in the beginning of like, Glenda suggested guest. Yes, I did, but you made it happen,
And you
right?
said yes.
And that's right. That is right. Definitely what I was getting into.
Hmm.
So yeah,
And just getting to this point has been overcoming a tremendous amount of fear for both of us. So I think that's an important thing to point out
it
too. Um, I think when you said the closet,
for sure.
that was actually a really good segue also to just touch on the one aspect with Chiron that we both share, which is Chiron squaring our nodes. So I'm talking about the nodes of the moon, natally in the chart, everyone. And Glenda has Chiron at 14 degrees of Taurus, and her nodes are at South Node 13 degrees of Aquarius and North Node at 13 degrees of Leo. So that square I share myself in a different place. If you've been with me for a while, you know well that aspect. And if not, go back to season one and listen to my initial episodes, and I share my chart and all that. So what you said about coming out of the closet is a really important thing with and with the eccentricity layer too, with the Aquarian energy, South Node in Aquarius in the eighth house. And then on the other side, your growth point, your North Node in Leo, coming from the heart, that creativity, that creative spark. In the second house of values, and with the square from Chiron, it's always been described to me in my education, and I can definitely validate this from the lived experience, a repeating lesson. So you've already touched on that. So having these things happen with the relationships with the other people, like dipping your toe out a little bit and then seeing the reaction and then coming back in a little bit and then repeating the lesson. My teacher always called Chiron an inconvenient teacher. But when it
Yes.
involves your nodal axis, that's like your whole growth story. So for you, it's valuing yourself and your self-confidence and your creativity and just having that always be a dynamic that exists eternally because it's in your natal chart. And then having that lived experience just teach you something more and more every time is just, part of your story.
And that does definitely going back. I guess the main times that I didn't feel like I fit in, it was, well, what's wrong with me?
Nothing.
It's nothing. It's the, hey, value yourself more.
Yeah.
It's okay to be different. It is
Hmm.
okay to like things that not everyone on your same street, or the school you attend, it's okay that they don't get you. Love yourself. And that is
Exactly.
probably a struggle because what I mean by struggle is I'm the person, this is so weird, but sharing is caring, right? I'm the person if I'm in the grocery store and I know somebody wants to get like close to where I'm at, I move out of their way, let them get their item, and then I go back. I never want to inconvenience anyone.
Mm.
So, wait a minute. Why did I stop? Let's use the grocery store. Why did I stop, move out of their way when I could just grab my item and went about my business?
Hmm.
It is caring what other people think of you when I should care. And as long as I'm being kind, a good person, right? Give myself some grace instead of, oh, how are they going to think of me? What are they going to you could go all the way down that into like egos fully taken over and you're like,
Hmm.
we don't want that. Um, that's definitely not where I want to be. I do feel like learning the Chiron content has helped tremendously. Am I a confident person? No, but we can all act confident, and sometimes you fake it till you make it. I just can't get back into the mindset, I guess I should say, like it's okay to get constructive criticism, to learn from that. But when
Hmm.
it cuts down deep and you just got kicked out of the cool kids club, step back and reflect, but don't beat yourself up. And that's one thing that I definitely have to do is self-care. Made that a priority. Me time, whatever it is. Um, Grounding, getting in the garden. I say garden, like gardening,
Hmm.
flowers and such,
Hmm.
just being in nature. And it's going to be different for everyone depending on, their charts. But the South and the North Node. North Node is, say that again, that is where we are growing, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
South Node
essentially.
is what we already have, right?
Yep.
See, I am learning some things.
And then with North Node and
So,
Leo in particular, it's a big part of that is not seeking validation from others. That's a huge lesson with that placement in particular, but for both of us.
yeah, and
So just what you
doesn't that
touched on.
suck? Does that not
Yeah.
suck?
Yeah. It's a big
We're,
learning journey.
and so, like Ursula, think about the times that it's like, how much have we beat ourselves up? And I'm saying we because I kind of feel like we can be anyone listening to this podcast too. How many times have we beat ourselves up in a situation to where, God, coulda, woulda, shoulda, why did I do that? Or, what have you. And really, we made that mountain, I mean, ourselves. And it wasn't a
Hmm.
big deal. Totally unfair to do to yourself.
Yeah.
Not fair at all.
Nope.
So yeah, Leo confidence is something when I think of Leo, of course, Wizard of Oz,
Yep.
Cowardly Lion. Let's go there. Why
Yes.
not? Glinda the Good Witch is here.
I love it. I was hoping that you would.
If those that have seen The Wizard of Oz, there's the Cowardly Lion. He needed his confidence. So with that North Node placement that we're talking about, it's when you speak of woo-woo things, woo-woo can sound scary to those that don't know what that means. But South Node, that Aquarius energy, and you correct me if I'm saying that wrong,
You
it's
got it.
always been there.
Hmm.
It's having the courage to speak about it.
Yeah, you're comfortable
And
keeping
I'll
that
say
woo in the
a
closet. Yep.
we need to shine,
Yes. Oh,
fully
that's so
accepting.
perfect. So perfect. I love it when people can speak the language of their charts so eloquently. So you did that so perfectly. And just also to point out to part of what Glenda's talking about with the foot and mouth and blurting things out and that kind of stuff. Glenda is a Sagittarius sun, but she also has Mercury in Sagittarius as well. So that is one of the qualities of Mercury and Sagittarius is just speak the truth, speak the truth, speak the truth.
You know that I tell people, don't ask me a question if you don't want the truth,
Yeah.
because I have hurt feelings unintentionally. I would never want to purposefully hurt someone's feelings. And I'm like, don't ask me if you don't want the truth. And I can come across blunt. I don't mean
Mhm.
to. That's how it comes out.
That's how it is.
I'm really a nice girl.
You are, you're super sweet. So, the two other things that I think are important to touch on that I think people listening are probably have been experiencing this year since Chiron's been in the sign of Aries, since people coming up on their Chiron return, or people with Uranus in Scorpio that are experiencing their Uranus opposition with Uranus going through Taurus. Activation of Chiron and Taurus is one big thing that we've both been going through kind of simultaneously with the Uranus opposition, which is, I think, a very unique experience. So just kind of touching on that and like, Uranus is the great awakener. So like Uranus just waking up our Chirons in a big way has been a huge part of that. So that's been kind of going on since the spring of 2018. And so has Chiron and Aries.
Oh yeah.
So Chiron's been creeping up on your moon, and that was like when we first started working together, that was one thing that I mentioned. So Glenda has her moon in Aries, as she said, in the 10th house at 20 degrees. So anyone that knows anything, especially about what we've been experiencing this year is the eclipses that have been happening in that area of the zodiac. The big one that we had back in April, I think it was at 22, if I'm not mistaken. So Glenda's also has a sub period kind of being activated with her moon as well. So Glenda's moon rules her chart as she's a Cancer rising. So Chiron has been dosing your moon with heavy medicine. And simplest explanation of the moon is just, your basic needs and your sense of safety and security. But for you, it's in a very public space in your 10th
Yeah,
house. So as we've been working together, especially through this year, and knowing that you're also in this other sub period where your moon has been activated now for a while, and I kind of described it to you when we first started talking, like the healing of your matrilineal line would be part of that. I kind of thought that's what came to me when we were first talking about it because that's what Chiron does. He heals. So, can you share a little bit about just, maybe the work stuff or women at work, maybe the shift that's coming and or anything that's been healed in your matrilineal line since this dance has been going on now with Chiron all year?
sure. Yeah, I'll do my best.
Okay.
Um, so what I mean by that is it's really so, and I think truly because you and I know each other. We met, I popped up into the scene 2021, so clearly I had some nudges and with it with the Neptune, like where it's at, they're opposite. So it's like do this or this is gonna happen, do this. And that's when I started coming onto the scene, coming online. Doing we did some Mercury retrograde classes. I did
Yes.
those through you. Yes, I
Hmm.
did. And learning, understanding, because the whole something's drinking the Gatorade, the ones that they that's just like a little plug to see if there's others interested in
Oh
what you're
yeah.
interested
I've
in.
heard Mercury in the microwave too.
So yeah, I'm gonna microwave, that's right, yeah. Um, Sometimes it's those little plugs, and I find this, I don't know why I'm discussing this right now, but that's one little plug that somebody that could be actually into astrology is plugging in to test out a possible new friendship. Like, are they into that? Like, are they going to get what I say? That's one way that we try to make friends, as a play date and being an adult. You're not in high school anymore, seeing the same people over and over, depending on the size of your school, seeing somebody like, yeah, we've been through, I've never seen you. I come from a small school. I knew I could name everyone that I graduated with. So let's jump back. Um, the moon, that's the emotions. So Aries moon is super kind and loving. Um, with opening up to my gifts as far as diving into the things. It's the nudge of, yep, this is something you've got to heal from. And I'm doing this as like I'm turning a wheel, like the natal wheel, turning my hands, like it's a cycle. Um, the things that interested me, I dove into. Um, the things as far as, let's use career. So there is a career that I actually have currently that is different than what we're discussing, totally fine. Um, Whenever I think we were doing our October, that's where that October was coming from. Okay, October, I had something that was brewing, and it was going to be a shift, a huge shift. Um, I'm going to summarize just a little bit, but where I had been located for several years currently was going to change locations. And it was something that I didn't realize until last month. And, you know, you can look at your chart and know that something is affecting a certain house, a space, which we know if you're familiar with astrology, if it's in a certain house. So, like in my instance, if it's brewing in my career space, We might not know what that is. We may miss the sign symbols, the sign of your sign, but it was brewing. And then in November, it dropped, and that's totally fine. But in the moment, complete shock, complete, here's where I want to use, it's almost as if, when you're on vacation. Okay. So we're on vacation and it's the day before time to go home, and you're like, I don't want to go home. I
Yes.
don't want to go home. Let's stay another day. And no one wants to come home from vacation, right? Because when you come home from vacation, you're back into the regular. You're not, relaxing on vacation. All right. So when you come home from vacation and you look back at your vacation, and it's like, oh, we did this, we did that, but it's really good to get back into my routine. So sometimes on vacation, you can, eat extra. You can doom scroll and waste hours, okay? But when you're back in a routine, back at home, um, things kind of flow. Why did I use vacation? Why did I even use it as an example? Because we all don't want to leave vacation. Some people do now. Hear me out. There's been some horrible vacations. You're like, I
I
can't
can
wait to
attest to
get
that.
home. Okay. Yeah. So when the news struck, and Ursula and I had like a private conversation. I'm like, oh Lord, I know now the career space, which I had no idea as far as like now looking back. And it was devastating, but it wasn't, nothing's like really changing. However, it is. Trying to use my words carefully here.
Hmm.
It is because stepping into what is it? Divine feminine. Okay.
Hmm.
So if you have, really trying to use my words carefully here, if you've had a boss that was of the opposite, going into a boss that is the same as I am, um, and I identify as a female, there we go.
Hmm.
That's a change.
Yes.
Where if you feel as though you're not being heard, or they don't know what to do with this, all these ideas, changes I'd like to do, and this is how sometimes a shift needs to take place. And once I realized, holy shit, this just lined up so perfectly, meaning that in no way, shape could I have prevented such, because it was without. There was no, do you want to? It was like, hey, guess what? This is what's going to happen.
Exactly how eclipses work.
And when I tell you that now, in the state that I'm in, I am so excited because I know that this is a whole new door that is unlocking for me, and I am fully accepting, excited, pumped about it. Like, oh, they keep delaying the day, and it's like, oh, let's go, because I know that this is something exciting, and as long as I go into it with that energy, I'm giving it my all, and I'm just
Yeah.
going to be me, just
Yeah.
be me. So, opposite of that, think about lineage going there. So if you're diving into your spirituality, regardless of what aspect of your spirituality you're diving into, sometimes there's things such as like, you may have heard shadow work. You may have heard like, okay, so ancestry. If anybody's ever done their genealogy, that is, to me, you're looking back at your ancestors.
Hmm.
Um, there are some spiritual practices, spiritually driven practices. Really, it's meditating and talking to, it could be whatever. I'm cutting all that off because that like turned into 10 different subjects. So, in the process of where I started diving into things that interested me, there has been things that I've discovered in the process, female energy wise. Okay. So knowing things that, so if you're an 80s baby, you didn't really get to talk to grown-ups. We were not the ones that shut up and don't say anything era. We were the ones that we couldn't join adult conversations, but we probably could have, right?
And we definitely
No
listened to a
one
lot of
checked
them.
on us. Yes, and no one checked on us. The adults were adulting,
Yes.
and we came home when it got dark. But there was not that whole fear of the whole how you track here. Where's your, on apps and stuff, where's your kids? Where's your family? None of that existed.
No.
And just like going back to, I'm thankful that the internet wasn't as popular back then because no one can prove we did anything. There's no
There was no
video.
surveillance. I mean, there was, but in a whole different way.
Whole different way. We are the lucky
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
We are the lucky ones. Um, so a part of diving into my spirituality has been also healing wounds that go back lifetimes. Um, there's a recent movie that new to Netflix a couple weeks ago. It ends with us. Okay.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
so yeah, I clicked it. I watched it. I love Blake Lively. Okay, I really do. In the moment when I realized, and it was an aha moment, I thought, and I'm not trying to spoil a movie, but you think it's a romance thing. When the aha moment caught me, and it was like, it ends with us, baby girl, it ends with,
Hmm.
I'm like, third generation.
Hmm.
Things are just popping off, and it's just like pew, 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 pew,
Yep.
pew, pew. Download, 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 if you've heard that term. Coming online, whatever you want to say, like it was such an aha moment for me. All right, so now I'm gonna take a step back since we know a little bit about Chiron and
Hmm.
being different. You know, the MTV show Teen Mom, well, I was that before it was famous. And if anyone has ever experienced that growing up, you have this whole, yeah, Teen Mom made me different. Not all my friends had kids in high school. I did. Um, the It Ends With Us. Um, no, I'm not talking about domestic violence. I'm not sorry if that's a trigger, but that movie it has some triggers in there. But like
Hmm.
taking a look back at my life, and I was the one, most people, if you knew me, you knew me, or I was the girl that had a kid in high school, right? You're in two categories there.
Yeah.
Um, Imagine going through your primitive years of trying to figure out who you are and walking down the hall, knowing the majority of the people in the hallway are talking about you.
Mm.
What does that do? Well, we don't really want to talk. We don't want to talk. And we want to prove to everyone that we are capable of whatever life has thrown at us. Now, I say all of that with that I have an absolutely amazing daughter. Um, she saved me.
Mm.
So what I mean by that is there was a fork in my road for a reason. Had I not had her, there's no telling. There is truly no telling. That book is being written on a different timeline, and I am thankful because I'm the lucky one to have her. She has blessed me with two grandkids that are everything. I did have another child. It took me 11 years to figure out where babies come from. Um, and looking at being who wants to be a parent at that young, tender age of, just old enough to drive? No one. They just want to drive a car. Um, think about what that puts on a person who is trying to find the confidence to prove to the world that I am more than just teen mom.
Mhm.
Well, what pressure did I put on myself for that?
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you that um, I can tell you more times than not that more people don't believe that I have a 27-year-old daughter because they didn't know me at that time than the amount of times I have heard bad things from people that did know me. Okay. So
Mm,
what do I mean by that? Like, I'm not reminiscing on any bad things. The people that I'm still around and that know me. That's not discussed at all, at all. You'd be surprised what happens whenever you have a lot of different friends. You get pregnant in high school, and guess what happens? You become the counselor to
mm,
everyone. And so, in a sense, I did help a lot of people. They trusted me to discuss things that they probably couldn't discuss with their parents. Um,
that's
again, with the
profound.
lived experience,
Yeah.
right? Right.
Hmm.
So, what I have found career-wise is that I've always wanted to prove that I'm not defined by my past,
Mm,
that I am not that same person. I am still a little, right? But I have grown with diving into spiritual things and the woo-woo. Um, Meeting you and finding out that there's a reason I look up at the moon every time, because I'm ruled by the moon. It calls to me.
yes.
Do you know how much that makes me feel so normal?
Mm,
When I found like we're definitely apart. We can't drive to each other's house during the day or the weekend. And to find you that helped me understand those things and made me feel normal.
hmm.
Finding my tribe. Um, what can I add to that? Always be yourself. When you try to
Hmm.
hide yourself, it is going to creep up in ways that you didn't know you were ready for. Um, it could feel like your world's changing and you don't know why. You could lose friends. You could get kicked out of the cool club. Your career path can change. But if you fight that, like mm, any of those instances, what if I chose not to be a teen mom?
Right.
Okay.
Hmm.
What if I chose not to dive in and find you in, 2021, right? What if I rejected um, more than 20 years in current field of I ain't going there and you can't make me. I mean, I gotta eat.
Yeah.
So, what if you took each of those experiences, in my case with the Taurus energy, and just slow and steady
Hmm.
climb that mountain?
Lesson by lesson, little by little, step by step, confidently embracing your own authenticity and knowing that you are your own greatest resource. Yeah.
All of that. You summarized that really well.
But you spoke it.
Can't believe all that just came out. I
You
love
spoke
it.
it. Thank you, Glenda, for sharing all of that.
No, thank you for giving me the opportunity. Do you know that I don't know if you could tell, but like I can feel warmth in this right here. It's almost as if that was a full-blown like release under this new moon. Ursula, you damn genius. Look at you. Glenda is doing the things. I love it.
Oh my
Ah, we
God, I
all
love it
help
so
each
much.
other. Me too.
Let me stop the share. I did pull a card while you were talking. I figured the Sacred Rebels deck is probably the one that I will use for the interview episodes because it is my favorite, especially when we're in this Uranus opposition energy with Pluto just shifting into Aquarius and all of those things. So while you were speaking, I pulled, and this deck is by Alana Fairchild for anybody that doesn't have it or isn't aware of it. Sacred Rebels by Alana Fairchild. So, Glenda, while you were talking, and I'll just read the healing process because we're talking about Chiron. Each card has a healing process for these. Going Beyond Normal is the card that I pulled, number 14, which is the degree of your Chiron, by the way.
Not sure, Matt. You can't make this up. You can't make it up.
Can't make it up. Look at that. And look how she's kind of like cloaked in. I mean, we didn't even touch on this part of it, but coming from a religious background that is way different than the one that, you know, we're currently discussing, spirituality versus religion and all that. That's a whole other layer that could be unpacked. So
Yes.
just the light bulb at the top and just all the gold, and it's just so beautiful. So are you ready for the healing process for this?
Yes, yes,
All
yes.
right. Actually, we can do this together if you want. It
Okay.
says, say aloud, I now call on unconditional love,
I now call on
on unconditional
unconditional
love,
love
and ask for the blessings of the heart
and ask blessings of the heart
to be witnessed and sanctioned
to be witnessed and sanctioned
by the great universal creator
by the great universal creator,
so that I may rise
so that I may rise
above small mindedness
above small mindedness
and see the best
and see the best
of what human culture has to offer
what human culture has to offer
in service to love.
in service to love.
Through my own free will, so be it.
Through my own free will, so be it. That was every bit of what I talked about.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Wow.
So, yeah, there's another part too. It says, say, may the wisdom and guiding hand
May the wisdom and guiding hand
of the great gardener
of the great gardener
who works with unconditional love
who works with unconditional love
nurture the garden of my soul
nurture the garden of my soul
into magnificence.
into magnificence.
I dare to live creatively
I dare to live creatively
from my heart
from my heart
and thrive.
and thrive.
Oh, that's what happens, everyone.
I mean, and I
That is
said
the magic.
gardening. I said all those things.
You sure did.
This is where it is where, okay, those that are new to trying to figure out certain signing or signs, that's a signing or sign. There's no way you can make that up at all. And some people would just be like, no,
Yeah.
no, that's what holds you back.
Yeah.
Um, I'll say this, believe in the magic you had as a kid. If we could still be adults and do that, okay? But what you literally just said, that card, the 14, the signing your signs, I love that so much.
Yeah. So I was gonna close out by asking you, how can you be more of a maverick? Since that's my tagline for every episode.
So glad you said that because I would have forgotten. As I was driving home, and sometimes when we're driving home, we get signier signs. I look at the vehicle in front of me, it's blue, and did you know that Ford makes a Maverick
Yes.
truck? I didn't until today when I'm behind and on the tailgate, Maverick. And I was like,
Love it.
shut the front door. This is exactly what we're going to do today. It was as if, yep, I'm aligned. I'm aligned. That could have, this is what you're going to do today, and Spirit's going to be with you while you do it. I love that. Like that gives me so much energy. It gives me all the tingles and the buzzings. As you
Hmm.
can tell, as I'm starting to like fidget a little bit, like because I'm vibing. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I guess the take back would be the sign of your signs and to be you.
Yeah.
It's okay. Okay, so let me say that. I've learned a lot by mirroring others. What do I mean by that? So, if I've never ordered from a particular restaurant, tell me how you order. All right, so that's how we learn. Or you're eating your first fancy dinner. Okay? You look at everyone. That's the things that I've learned from others. Um, I'm still me. I can also adult. I can be in society. I can be a hermit. I like being hermit sometimes, not gonna lie. Like, let's retreat.
Mm.
But Glenda's still there. So for anyone listening that's like, what is the whole point of this podcast? For this instance, with where Chiron is and the north nodes and the south nodes, it's pretty validating in myself. And if anyone else has those placements and it, you had some moments where it's like, oh my God, that's me, that's me. Dive into it. Get to know yourself a little more. That's what I did. It helped tremendously. And just be you. Open mouth, insert foot. I've gotten better at that. But I'm still me.
Yeah,
Yeah, so shine.
I love that. And that is how Chiron is the key to unlocking healing and personal alchemy.
Yeah.
Oh, Glenda, we're gonna close out, but I think that we should do another one. We can
I'm
we can use
game.
we can use the fuel that the image on that card gave us for maybe another episode at some point, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
another whole area that we could even talk about because things will be shifting so next year, so that could be a good
Yeah.
topic for where things are going with like the North Node
Hey,
going into Pisces and Jupiter going into Cancer, like that could be cool.
I mean, we could have just opened a whole door there and I'm down.
Seriously.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well,
Definitely.
everyone, remember to be a maverick. And Glenda, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.